Welcome to the March 6th Bridgewater Township Council meeting. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act of New Jersey, the adequate notice of this meeting was provided on December 10th, 2024 by sending written notice and electronic notice to the Courier News and the Breeze, posting on the website and the bulletin board in the municipal building, and filing with the township clerk. May we have the roll call, please?
Councilman Kirsch?
Here.
Councilman Cordilla?
Here.
Councilman Pedroso?
Here.
Councilman Ring?
Here.
President Nogales?
Here. Councilman Cordilla, would you please lead us in the pledge? Please, if you're able, please stand.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Minutes for approval. The closed session minutes are circulating, but we have the regular minutes of February 20th, 2025. Has anyone had an opportunity to offer any comments? If so, if none, could I have a motion on those minutes, please?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay, second, please.
I'll second it.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those minutes are approved. Moving on to Township Council reports. I'd like to start with Councilman Cordilla, please.
Okay. This evening, the first activity I attended a drone presentation this afternoon as a possibility for Bridgewater Township Emergency Services. And I have to say, while it was extremely cool outside, to say the least, the presentation presented some what I consider to be some benefits for Bridgewater Township, and there will be a lot more time and effort going in to qualify that activity. Along with that, as many of you know, I've been a member of the Findurn Fire Department for many years, and this past week, the other Tuesday night, I believe, the Bridgewater Township had, in my opinion, what could have been a total disaster when a car drove into the rear of a gas tanker on Route 22 by Thompson Avenue. If you've ever been involved in an accident in a scene like that, I assure you it's not something that you look forward to. But I would like to say that comment on the action of Police Officer Noah a lot. His body cam images showed his response to the scene and his actions on the scene, which I think will be images and something that he'll carry for the rest of his life. In my opinion, Officer Allott is a true hero for his activity in going to the car that was basically embedded in the back of the tanker and pulling it on the unconscious driver out of the car while the car was burning, while the tanker was burning. God Almighty, I give Officer Allott a tremendous amount of credit for his show of extraordinary courage and action in saving a life. And in my opinion, the use of body cams in this instance, if there's any question from the public whether they're valuable or not, based on recent activity here with comments made by the public that were proven to be not true, and by the use of the body cams here showing the activity of our police officers, I think we're blessed to have the police department and the officers that we do have. In addition to that, the fire companies who responded, Martinsville was primary coverage, Findurn and Green Knoll responded also. I assure you that each one of them, knowing what they were going to, they did not hesitate for a moment to respond and provide the service that they needed to provide to put the fire out. They all should be commended, and I think the residents of Bridgewater should really step back. If you're not aware that all of the fire companies in Bridgewater are volunteer, I think that's something you should take into consideration and give these guys the credit that they also deserve, along with the EMT organizations. I think Martinsville and Green Knoll responded to it. You know, they're all volunteers, and that's been in Bridgewater Township for, you know, for my whole time in Bridgewater, I guess for close to 70, 75 years in general. But the technology that helped with this, with the video cams, the action of the police officer, the action of the fire departments, and the EMTs all contribute to what many of us here look at as far as activity. And looking at this incident, the other part that came to mind was the actions of our planning board and some of the thoughts we have in Bridgewater in having our, you know, trying to keep Route 22 and roads safe by having car dealerships pull the car trailers off the road and load the vehicles on the properties themselves. To me, driving into the rear of a tractor trailer is, you know, obviously something was wrong. But when I see a car trailer, a guy loading cars in front of a car dealership, I get a little nervous because you're a blink of an eye away from a similar type incident, you know, of somebody getting hurt terribly. So I tip my hat to emergency services, tip my hat to the planning board in Bridgewater for the service that they provide and the guidance on buildings and so forth. And I'm just saying nothing but positive things. God bless them all.
Thank you. Councilman Kirsch, please.
Thanks very much. I have just a brief report tonight, but want to, you know, echo the sentiments that were just noted. Police, fire, EMS, road workers. You know, really, we're blessed here in Bridgewater with many dedicated public servants protecting us in one way or another. And I think it's important that we stop and see that, whether we're on the dais here or residents out in the community. The two items, briefly, I wanted to report the zoning board met on February 25th. They approved an expansion of the mausoleum at the St. Bernard's Church Cemetery. Maybe I'll have to ask our clerk how many, at some point, how many deceased residents we have here in Bridgewater. It'd probably be an interesting.
They don't get to vote, though.
They don't vote, but it'd be interesting to know. There are a few towns in New Jersey and elsewhere where there's more deceased people than live people. I don't think we're quite there, but it'd be an interesting statistic. And then on the 4th, the planning board meeting was canceled due to lack of agenda. And that's my report.
Thank you. Councilman Pedroso, please.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us here at our council meeting tonight. A couple of things I guess I have to say. I did attend the drone presentation today over here at Town Hall. These are drones potentially to be used by our police department for public safety. Certainly interesting technology, and I look forward to exploring that further. I attended on the 24th, our legislative representatives, Senator Douglas Steinhardt and Assembly Minority Leader John DeMaio and then Assemblyman Eric Peterson had a town hall in Raritan Borough. Assemblyman DeMaio couldn't attend because he was sick, so I did attend that event. It lasted for a couple hours. Mostly it was ended up being focused on the community's concern with the trains in Raritan. And I listened to a lot of people talk about those issues. Apparently the trains, they're noisy. They produce a lot of pollution. A lot of residents are concerned about the toxic effects, the pollution they're being exposed to from the trains, and a lot of vibrations. And I guess it's gotten worse over the years. And what I found also sort of interesting was that these trains idle for a large part of the night. So they keep them running for most of the night, and they keep emitting pollution all night long, and they keep making these sounds. And I just couldn't help but think of sort of like the hypocrisy that comes down from our governor, because he keeps telling us that we should be using electric vehicles. They're trying to ban our gasoline cars. They're trying to ban people from using their gas stoves at home. But yet he says nothing about these trains that are producing much more pollution than most of us do. And they're producing these toxic effects in the community, and they run nonstop, but the governor does nothing to advocate for the people of Raritan and certainly Bridgewater that are affected by these trains. And it's just crickets from Trenton for these issues. So just couldn't help but think about the hypocrisy that comes down from our governor. I also attended several Lincoln Day dinners. Republican parties across our state have a tradition of hosting Lincoln Day events. So I attended several of them throughout our state. I'm always glad to attend events that recognize President Lincoln. President Lincoln was the first Republican president, and I can't help but think about all the accomplishments that really our party has had in the crusade of equal rights for Americans. Abraham Lincoln certainly plays a vital role in the Emancipation Proclamation and the finality of slavery. The Republican Party really were the advocates and fought for the right to vote for all black citizens in America. And certainly the Republican Party are the ones who advocated and fought for the women's right to vote. And even the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was mostly supported by Republicans. Certainly President Kennedy spoke favorably of the Civil Rights Act, and certainly he helped push it through. But Republicans were the primary party that supported the Civil Rights Act. 82% of Republican senators voted in favor of the Civil Rights Act, compared to 68% of Democrats. And in the House of Representatives, 80% of Republicans voted in favor versus 61% of Democrats. So I'm just really, I'm really proud of that fact that our party has really been the bedrock of civil rights and equality in America. And certainly I get a chance to think more about that as I attend these Lincoln Day events throughout our state. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Ring, please.
All right, thank you, sir. As Councilman Cardilla has mentioned, we do truly have a hero in our Bridgewater Police Department. I commend the police department for releasing the video. I'm very sad to see some social media groups out there are blocking the video and do not feel it's appropriate to be shared. Very disappointing. If you have not had a chance to see the video, I would absolutely encourage you to go to the Bridgewater Police Department's Facebook page. You can hear the audio of Officer Allott understanding and confirming with an individual on the ground before he runs to a car that the engine compartment is fully engulfed in flames, goes to the passenger side of the vehicle and realizes there's a gentleman unconscious in the driver's seat, goes around the vehicle and pulls him out and drags him to safety. If it was not for Officer Allott, I think that would have been a very different outcome. And kudos to him. Thank you to him. I understand he's born and raised locally in Somerville. Is that correct, Chief? Chief shaking his head in the back of the room. Local individual and a true hero. So thank you to him for his efforts. I also participated in, some have mentioned the police department's in very early stages at looking at how unmanned aircraft systems can be used, not only for law enforcement, but for fire, EMS, missing people, multiple uses out there, and looked at a demonstration this afternoon that was quite impressive, and I'm sure there'll be more to come on that over the next several months. The only other item I have The Budget Committee continues to be in contact with the administration as it relates to getting a timeline or a budget for the Budget Committee to take action on. We are still waiting for that. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. My report. Bridgewater Police Officer Noah et al. Made the news in a dramatic rescue of a driver whose car was on fire due to an accident with a tanker on Route 22 by Chimney Rock. At our March 20th, the next council meeting, we will honor Officer et al. With a formal proclamation. Good work, officer, and great work, Chief. March 1st was an important day for our Muslim friends. It was the start of Ramadan, which is the 9th month of the Islamic calendar. It is observed by Muslims worldwide as a month of fasting, prayer, reflection, and community. It is also the month in which the Quran is believed to have been revealed to the Islamic prophet Muhammad. The annual observance of Ramadan is regarded as one of the 5 pillars of Islam and lasts 29 to 30 days from one sighting of the crescent moon to the next. Ash Wednesday, occurring on March 5th, marks the beginning of Lent, a significant period of reflection and repentance in the Christian faith. This day is traditionally observed with the imposition of ashes, symbolizing mortality, and the call to repentance, as well as the start of a 40-day journey leading to Easter. Many Christians participate in fasting and abstaining from certain foods during Lent, which emphasizes spiritual growth and renewal. I attended the monthly meeting of the Municipal Alliance. Police Chief Mitzak also attended, as well as Board of Education President Stephen Singer. The Alliance continues to support our high school students through multiple programs, including drug awareness and a more recent effort to support mental health. New Jersey American Water continues to flush hydrants in various parts of our town as part of their annual maintenance program. This process removes sediment that may have settled in their water mains. There is a possibility that some residents may see a minor discoloration for a short period of time. If that happens, just run the water for a few minutes. PSE&G sent notices to residents entitled Upcoming Gas Meter Inspection. Their letter states, "We remind you to always ask for identification when a utility worker comes to your door. Our employees carry a PSE&G photo identification badge, wear PSE&G logo apparel, and drive PSE&G cars and trucks. If a resident, especially a senior citizen, does not feel comfortable admitting the worker, deny them access and call the PSE customer service number 800-436-7734 to verify the visit." That is my report. Thank you. Mayor's report, please.
Thank you, Council President. I have a few items to touch on tonight. The first one, as we're talking about the actions of our police officers, I join, of course, in all the sentiments that have been said about the incident with Officer Alot and his heroism. And on the way over, I don't know, depending on how you came in the building, the police academy is taking place. The civilian police academy is taking place down the hallway, and you know that program has been a very well received. It continues to be done. I think, Chief, for you and all your the officers' commitment to doing that, it's been a phenomenal opportunity to continue to build relationships between the police department and our public, and try to educate both the public and our officers about what's going on in our town. A couple other quick items. I attended it's been a busy couple weeks. I was honored to be one of the hosts for the New Jersey Conference of Mayors Winter Summit, which is up in Florham Park. It was a bunch of programs about municipal government, local government. We had representation from the state. The Attorney General was there, as well as the Superintendent of the State Police. I was at the Walk to Washington Chamber of Commerce event with the congressional delegation a couple weeks ago, which was very informative, meeting with folks from around the state with regard to, again, municipal government, state government, and federal government issues and how they impact us here in Bridgewater. Robert Wood Johnson had their annual fashion show at the mall to celebrate heart health and promote heart health. That is one of my favorite events of the year, mostly because I get to watch my girls walk in the fashion show. Although it's starting to turn this year, my oldest said she would not wave to me because that was not cool. So unfortunately for her, I get a microphone, so I made sure to call her out on the microphone and make sure I was going to wave to her because she was my daughter and I was her father, and I was going to make sure everyone knew it. In 5th grade, that she still was able to laugh that off. I don't know if I'm going to get away with that for too much longer before she really gets angry about it. But the hospital's been a great partner for us in terms of all the things that they do. The fashion show is certainly a fun, enjoyable way of promoting Heart Health Month, but they sponsor a lot of events in Bridgewater directly or through their foundation, such as the Spring Carnival at the JCC. We had opportunity to meet with their leadership earlier this week to talk about more ways of closing the health gaps within Somerset County. And we have some ideas in terms of programs. They have a lot of interesting statistics that they've done as part of their community health study that talks about access to health care and healthcare outcomes differing between age populations, ethnic populations, and some strategies at a county level, as well as some of the data is down to the township level, so we can figure out how to bridge that gap, whether it's language issues, whether it's, as an example, you have lower income folks. If you work an hourly job, you can't necessarily take off 4 hours to sit in a doctor's waiting room because you have an appointment at 9 o'clock and you don't get seen until 11:30 and you miss your whole workday. So how do we get medical care provided after hours on a more routine basis so folks like that can have access to health care? It's not necessarily an insurance issue. Sometimes it's just literally they can't take time off of work, put food on the table, and also go get medical treatment. So there's a lot of there's a lot of very informative statistics about that within our community, and we have some ideas on how to piggyback on what they're doing, as well as to expand it into our community specifically to make sure our residents have access to health care. Roads, we're coming up on the 5th year of the road program. We will talk about this ad nauseum. So in case you have not heard about it, well, of course, council, you have. We'll be promoting it over and over and over and over again. But we're almost finalizing the list of roads for this year. For the public, we break up the town to 6 regions so that every region has road work done. It's not necessarily the same mileage or the same dollar values. It depends on the projects each year, but that way we know for sure every area gets roads done. So there's always a perception that people think one area gets more than the other. We are finalizing that. We'll start looking to go out as soon as possible to get approval for moving those projects forward, because the quicker we go out, the better pricing we get. We had a bid come up just this week for Perrine, which is in Martinsville. That was a project that was one area left over from last year that had not got done before the winter season came. You can't pave roads when it's snowing and freezing out. So we're happy to report that bid came in, and it came in $100,000 under what we were estimating it at. So we're hoping to continue to take advantage of good pricing, because the more we save money, then we can turn it around and we can do more road work. Some of the projects we put out have alternate bids that we can do if the pricing is good enough, but not if the pricing goes high. So we will have information on those roads. That's not 100% finalized yet, but we're going to hope to continue moving through some of our areas and keep moving on that progress. Our BW Roads website I think it is updated, or if not, it's about to be. Make sure we're updated with the most current information. So residents, if you go on that road, you can see how your road is rated in terms of how bad is it. I know every road's bad, but some roads, we take a look at an entire road, but we also recognize there are sections of road that might be okay here, here, and here, and then you get in front of your house and there's a giant pothole. We recognize that. So we will try to get on to that. And I think that concludes Washington. This next Wednesday, I am honored I'm going to be able to attend a St. Patty's Day event at the White House with other mayors from around the country. So I've never been to the White House, so I am very, very excited to go. So I will take pictures and report back. So That is my report. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot about the budget, to comment on that. So we are close to finalizing a budget. We are trying to move as swiftly as possible, but at the same time, I'm not going to present a budget to the council that I'm not comfortable with. We got items, recently got the state aid numbers. We also got information from the tax office with regard to assessments, so we know what the tax base is. And we are still in the process of finalizing our spending priorities and our budget presentation. I hope that we will have it probably by the early April for public presentation. But I know the budget committee has been asking for a timeline, and I don't want to. That's our hope, but I don't want to. That is not a 100% commitment. As soon as I have a budget that I am comfortable presenting to the council and to the public, we will have it. And that's my report. I think Mr. Pappas has 2 items he wanted to report as well.
Thank you. As the council knows, the council has had requests from the administration and has acted on a number of properties that have been designated areas of need of redevelopment. Excuse me. One of those is the site on Route 22, and on Monday, March the 10th, the draft plan that Mr. Michael Sullivan has put together will be released and available to the public and to the planning board, who will hear officially a presentation by Mr. Sullivan at the next planning board meeting on March the 18th. 2 days later, the Township Council will be meeting, and the administration would like to request the council's consideration in allowing Mr. Sullivan to make that presentation at the council meeting, and perhaps to at least to have a draft ordinance that then the council could have on the agenda, and then perhaps consider introducing that ordinance on March the 20th. So that is one item that I wanted to report. The other item, briefly, is the last meeting, a member of the public had spoken about information from the user-friendly budget. And I did review the document, or the page that the gentleman was referencing, and compared it. I think he was trying to compare it between 2024 and 2023. And the specific comment was about number of supervisors versus number of employees that were non-supervisory. And the number of supervisors, again, listed on that page of the user-friendly budget for the 2024 budget was 21. The number of union employees was 55, and the number of non-union employees was 27. And the comparisons that were being made with the previous year were that the number of union and non-union employees had been different and higher one year versus the other. And so I'm going to actually correspond with the gentleman and provide him the information that I was able to have, and hopefully clarify and certainly then be able to respond to any questions that he has. That's all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pappas. Moving on to item number 7, proclamations. We have none. We are now moving to item number 8, which is the meeting open to the public. Members of the public wishing to address the council on any matter will be allowed 3 minutes to speak unless there are unusual circumstances. May I have a motion open to the public, please?
Make that motion.
I'll second it.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are now open to public. If you wish to address the council, please come forward, sign your name, and please make sure the green light is on and speak into the microphone.
Pappas, ma'am. Thank you for discussing the budget tonight. After my inquiry at the last meeting, I looked up the state statute that I believe relates to this. And I may not be interpreting it correctly, but I wanted to just confirm. It says that for municipalities like ours that follow our budget year to the calendar year, we are required to submit to the county an approved budget as the first step by February 10th. If I'm understanding the comments made thus far, we have not done that. Is that true?
Yeah, that's accurate. The February 10th deadline gets extended every year by, there's either an executive order or a local finance board note. But your point,
What's the deadline this year?
so the deadline is like today or this time. So we are not going to meet the deadline. Your point is still valid. I'm just saying that it's like the March deadline because the state numbers don't come out until February. So no town can meet the statutory deadline.
So the state has some parameters that it gives you, I believe, typically in mid-January.
Yeah, it usually comes out February, but
And
yes.
the statute says February 10th.
Right.
You're telling me now that we are required to submit a budget sometime in March.
Right.
Earlier comments seemed to indicate that you were ready to present probably maybe in April.
That's my hope, yeah, early
Okay,
April.
so we are going to be out of compliance with the state statute.
Yes,
Is there a justification for that?
yes, I'm not ready with a budget yet.
I'm sorry?
I'm not ready with a budget yet.
Has that got anything to do with the fact that the budget was approved last year only in July, leaving the administration less time to prepare for this year's budget? It would certainly seem so.
No, they're independent, both budgets.
I'm sorry?
The budgets are independent in terms of the time. We prepare for each year's budget in advance, but until we get the final numbers for state aid, which came in 2 days ago, we get our rating from the tax assessor on our total tax base.
Regardless, we're going to not be able to meet the
Correct.
state statute
That's correct.
deadline regardless of whether it's February or March.
Correct.
Okay, that's not exactly in terms of the financial rigor and transparency that you also tout. My larger question is this, though. So on tonight's agenda, there are temporary emergency authorizations, which basically cumulatively fund over approximately half of last year's budget, which puts us well past March, April, even May, potentially. The use of that temporary emergency authorization, from what I could understand of the statute, the underlying sentiment there is that we are proceeding on time with budget approval, adoption, public hearing, et cetera. The use or overuse of these temporary authorizations seems to be a convenient way for business to proceed at the township, but without any public input. Let me give you an example. Tonight, also on the agenda, is the authorization of an additional $101,000 to RJM Landscape for 2024-2025 snow removal. The initial contract, $75K, was done last September in advance, I'm presuming, of the season. Last month, it was increased by 100% to $150K. Tonight, another $100K, totaling a little over $250,000. The initial paperwork indicated that there was a $229.50 an hour rate. If you do the math, that's over $1,000 hours worth of snow removal time.
Ma'am, let me qualify snow removal for you.
Yeah.
The snow removal that we're talking about tonight goes into a block fund, which is snow removal. It authorizes the use to a vendor if we need to.
Right.
Now, so far, that's the 2024, 2025.
Right.
And if we don't have any snow for the rest of the season, all the well. But we are anticipating that if we do need to get our crews out there, that we will be able to fund them.
So this
So
is
the
not
money,
cruise,
we
this is
are
the
down.
one- the
Please let
one
me
vendor,
finish.
right?
Please let me finish.
Yeah.
We are down to $35,000 right now in our snow fund, because every time there's a bit of snow, we have to go out and salt, our people have to be out there. It's an expensive proposition. I think we do an excellent job of getting out there.
I'm not disputing that, I'm disputing the vendor contract. The vendor contract that was initially for $75K, then it was doubled to $150K, and then tonight, March 6th, another $100K, bringing the total to $250,000.
This is the authorization to spend that money if we need to. If it doesn't snow, we will not need to use that vendor, and none of those dollars will go out the door.
I'm using that, thank you. I'm using that as an example to demonstrate how the lack of a budget being approved and beginning the
Ma'am,
adoption process.
As a business, we have to pay our bills.
Right. but
And
this
whether
is in
we have the
anticipation.
budget in place on a formal basis, we will continue to do that.
I can certainly understand, as
No,
most
I don't know
homeowners,
that you
there are
do.
operating expenses
I
that
think
need
you,
to get
I
paid.
think you're saying, hey, I want the budget to be done within the bounds of a specific date. I think you've heard the mayor saying he's working on it, and when he's done with it, he will give it to the council, and then we will look at
What
it.
I'm questioning is why 50% has to be appropriated if we anticipate that it'll be ready.
Well, there are
at the end of the
timing
first
issues
quarter.
throughout the calendar. It isn't take your annual thing and divide it by 12.
But without any public input or ability to question what's being budgeted, what's being spent, you must understand that every year that there's further delay on the adoption of the budget increases the audit findings of some careless bookkeeping, and then reduces the amount of time. I understand that each budget is a separate fiscal year, but they're recurring expenses, and I presume with some predictability. It's not a huge budget that you can start to budget build.
we
but
understand
it's
your point.
Later in the process that waits.
Okay, you've made your
It makes
point,
it
ma'am.
difficult. I don't understand why we can't adhere to the deadline.
Okay, you've made your point. I understand your question. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the council?
Grace, did-
Yes,
Did the lady give us her name and address?
she wrote it on,
It's on there.
yeah, we'll make sure we get it. Come on up, ma'am.
There's no pen. Jane Gandolf, 2000.
There you go. I'll use this one.
So Jane Gandolf, 2000 Washington Valley Road. On behalf of the Friends of Bridgewater History, I want to thank Bridgewater for joining our newly formed Bridgewater History Alliance. We appreciate the support.
Ma'am, would you speak closer to the microphone, please? Thank you.
We appreciate all of your support, and we look forward to having many wonderful events to celebrate our country's 250th anniversary. Also, do you have historic preservation money in the budget?
We don't know yet. We haven't finished the budget.
You what?
We don't know yet. We haven't finished the budget.
Would you please consider putting historic preservation money in the budget, either through open space or however?
Yeah, and Ms. Gandolf, and on top of just generally historic preservation money, we are in the process of doing our open space master plan as part, which is a separate document than the master plan. But some of that will also include looking at items such as preservation of properties, whether it be unstructured properties, structured properties, and I think with the America 250, there's going to be opportunities both for grants and funding there. Some of that's going to potentially require matching funds or partial contribution. So it's something that we are definitely looking at both from a budget funding standpoint, an open space funding standpoint, and from a grant funding standpoint.
Terrific. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I am so sorry. I
That's okay.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Dan Mastriani. It's nice to see the mayor. I've been
Would you raise the microphone up, sir?
I'm trying to meet with the mayor for quite a while now. I'd just like to know, in the budget, I've met Michael several times. I think you've seen my name on several emails. Is Spring Run, the water situation, drainage, road, seriously being considered in this next budget?
Yes. So without overcommitting until we have the final road plan done, Spring Run is absolutely, that is the intention, is to start doing Spring Run. I don't know, we won't be able to do the whole Spring Run in one shot. So what we would expect to do is start with some of the lower lower, I'm looking at the thing on my map as I was looking at it, lower right corner of the roads.
That's where I live.
Okay, well, good. Then that's on the other side, maybe another year. But when we do it, we're not just going to do the paving, we're going to look at drainage. Because otherwise, if you just pave the roads without fixing the drainage, it's not going to, you're going to tear up the roads with the water and maybe increase the flooding issues. So without, it's not presented yet, so I don't want to give you 100% absolutely, but that is on the tentative list.
Like last night are very unnerving. You know, if it,
Yeah.
you know, when it starts raining that hard, if
Yeah.
it's going to keep raining.
Yeah, so that is the expectation. That's an area that we've been trying to get to, and we're finishing up Sunset Lake, and the intention is to move into Spring Run this year.
Great.
So,
Thank both of you and everybody. Have a good night.
thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address the council? Come forward, please.
Hi. Andrew Bucko, Berrywood Lane, and here in Bridgewater. First, I'd actually like to thank Mr. Pappas for the comments that he will get back to me as the member of the public who had brought these up in the previous meetings about the personnel counts in the budget files. I just would like to reiterate that as he did note, the other union number of employees went from 70 to 55 from 2023 to 2024, a reduction of headcount of 15 full-time, also 2 part-time, not really counting those, and other non-union went from 49 to 27, a 22 a reduction of headcount of 22 full-time and also 7 part-time. So there appears to have been a reduction of headcount of 37 full-time employees. The mayor is shaking his head, but the budget documents.
Yeah, the budget documents might show that, but that's not accurate. So we'll figure out why if the numbers were miss.
Yes, and as I think I had stated in the previous meeting, if the budget documents do not accurately reflect, you know, reality, I think that's a significant problem to be addressed. Moving on to the current year's budget, I can understand that there's a need to wait until state aid figures are received, but I guess why would, my question would be, why does tax assessments play a role in deciding what the town is going to spend money on? So if the tax assessment goes up by 2% of the value, it doesn't cost 2% more to run the town, does it? If it went up by 5%, would it cost 5% more? So I'm not understanding why it requires the tax assessment numbers to play a role in determining that. And finally, I'd also just like to comment on the resolution regarding various professional services that is being authorized. Is there an upper limit to the spend that is being authorized by the resolution? It does not appear to have one. I would like to know if there is if there's a cap on how much the township is going to spend on these professional services, or is it just however much money is sitting in burning a hole in a pocket is going to get spent? Thank you very much.
Are you talking about H? You're talking about Resolution H with the engineers?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, so that all we do there is we pre-qualify. So we're not awarding any specific contract to those vendors. We're simply saying that they meet the professional qualifications. So as if a project came in, say Spring Run, we need somebody to engineer the Spring Run project, we can go to that pool of engineers we can then award them a specific scope of work or project that would have a specific dollar amount on it in terms of, hey, you're going to do spring run, it's a $50,000 project or a $200,000 project.
I understand what you're saying there. I guess my follow-up question to that is the resolution, I believe, refers to proposals that were received by them. What I would like to know what the details of those are.
Yeah, it's qualifications proposals. So we don't go out and ask for, we say, what's your qualifications? They might have rates on it. They might have an hourly rate that is included as their general billing, that kind of thing. But all we do is look at them. We qualify them if they're either folks that we want to work with or they meet the qualifications. Some of them get work, some of them don't get work, some of them get more work than others. It depends on their skill sets, the projects, the needs. But we will also then go out, so like take Spring Run as the example. We'll go to multiple group on this list and we'll ask them to put together a proposal for that project, and then we will choose between those.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
Seeing no one, motion to close public.
We have
Okay, I'll withdraw
that
my motion.
please.
Good evening. Couple things. To go off the first speaker's.
Name and address.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wrote it down, but it's Kathy Franco. You all kind of know me. I live in Martinsville. In 12A, we talk about doing an emergency funding to allow additional payments to be made, which increases the funding up to 60% of last year's budget. And when I went through it, I guess my question is, it talks about increase amount. And is that increase over last year's budget? Is it increase over the quarter of last year? I think for clarification, it would be helpful because, you know, I'm just trying to figure out from a percentage standpoint, you know, if we're increasing liability by $345,000, is that an increase for the year? Is that an increase for the quarter, you know, what we spent for the quarter or what we anticipated for the quarter? I'm just trying to project what the potential budget would be for 2025.
Yeah, it just works off of last year's budget. It's set by statute. We don't get to pick the numbers. So it just says, if you are passing a temporary budget, you work off of a percentage of last year's budget for that particular quarter.
But you've passed group health insurance twice now, or you will probably tonight in 12A, and then again, group health insurance was passed on February 6th for $813,000. And now tonight, you're asking for $888,000. So I'm just a little confused because last year, I think the total cost was about $6.6 million. 6.6 million.
It depends on when the payments come due. It's what we expect to have to pay. But the temporary appropriations, it goes for the items based off of the percentage in the statute per quarter. And
right, but I mean, the percentage for the quarter would be 25% for the quarter. If you add the 2%, that would be 27. We're up to 60%, and we're not even at the end of the first quarter. So that's my concern as a consumer, as a taxpayer. You know, and I understand not everything is, you know.
that's the issue. Yeah, it doesn't get spread out. So
Well, but health insurance is paid monthly. You know, I mean, you know, snow plowing is not. Snow plowing is
It's paid
October
as
through March.
claims come in. And our experience has shown that towards the end of the year and in the winter,
Well, because you're self-insured.
we have more people being sick.
You're self-insured. Is that what you're saying?
I'm sorry?
Are you a self-insured plan?
We pay the claims as they come in. We are in effect self-insured. We have an umbrella
Well,
policy.
because Chris Corsini was shaking his head no.
Yeah.
that we pay, Mike Pappas can talk about it.
You know, I understand if it's self-insured, then yeah, you're paying additional money based upon the claims that are paid. But if it's not self-insured, it's a standard across. So maybe Mr. Pappas, can you answer, is this a self-insured plan again that we're paying on?
I think the number that you're speaking of is for the medical insurance.
Correct. I think so. It says group
And
health
I
insurance.
think as someone said that I don't have a schedule of when payments are due. We also have a payment that we have to pay to the joint insurance fund that is covering property and casualty losses. And the other.
That's liability. That's $345,000, which is listed separately.
And then another thing that hadn't been mentioned, but a significant amount that is the CFO has proposed as part of accumulation of the various temporary budget resolutions is debt service. You'll see one of the resolutions has the PERS, the pension payment, and that is something that, again, as has been said, is not necessarily 12 equal payments. They're due at various times throughout the year, and he is just wanting to ensure that there's sufficient funds in these accounts so we don't, so we're able to pay our bills. So there's not again, each of these are not necessarily due the 15th of every month.
No, and I understand that. But, you know, when it says increase amount, you know, and you see something like Social Security.
The wording might be a little misleading in that it might be an increase from the previous temporary budget resolution.
But if
It's
Social
not
Security
necessarily
is
an increase from last year.
$338,000, and last year it was 1.2 million, 338 is about a quarter. So how is 388 is about a quarter. So is that an increase above what you normally would have expected, is my question.
So your question is about the medical insurance specifically.
Well, that was my medical, but now I'm giving you a different example under Social Security, which, the 388, it's on page 2.
And that number will be different depending upon the employees, the number of employees, where we constantly have a moving number that will change.
Well, hopefully you don't have too big of a moving number, where you're increasing by 25% the cost of employment, because Social Security is based upon, 7.5% of, your salaries that you're paying out. So between how many people you have
Certain
and
number
how
of
much you
employees,
increase
which
their
can
salaries.
slightly fluctuate.
Well, it fluctuates, but hopefully not 25%. So the way you're presenting it as increased amount is just very unsettling, because you don't have a budget for this year. We're 9 weeks into the budget.
These numbers are just based off of last year's budget applying the formula. There's nothing specifically unique about these numbers that are an indication of that we know some number for this year and we're somehow putting it into the temporary budget.
But you're saying you need this money to spend.
Yeah, you got to pay the bills.
Pay bills.
Yeah.
So you're saying it's an increased amount. So is it an increased amount, or is it representative of the first quarter's charges related to last year?
Just taken from last year's budget.
Last year's plus an increased amount.
Just taken from last year's budget and increased by the numbers.
So it's a quarter of whatever last year is plus for Social Security, $338,000.
So the initial temporary budget, the municipality,
last year a quarter.
the municipality can only approve a temporary, but the first resolution,
Right.
I think, is the 26.2% of the previous year's budget.
Right, that was on
I think
January
that's-
2nd.
Yes. And then the governing body is able to consider other resolutions to increase the temporary budget. So I think the word increase perhaps is a reflection of an increase from the first temporary budget resolution. It's not necessarily an increase from last year.
Right.
Correct.
This is what we're increasing the temporary budget that was passed in January from.
So now we're up to 60%
Right.
last year's budget.
Correct.
And we're in week 7
No.
of the fiscal year.
That is.
You're passing a budget for what you're going to spend potentially over the next 6 months or 7 months.
No, because
I'm too tired.
Franco,
Just
you had the
finish
same
your questions.
comments last
I'm
year.
tired tonight.
So As we
Maybe
explained
I
to you
did, but maybe you haven't answered them appropriately, or maybe you're not predicting your costs appropriately, or maybe you're not presenting a budget within a timely manner for the public to be able to provide comment and to be able to assess the costs.
We're still
that
waiting
we're
for a
paying in
budget,
our
as I've
taxes.
alluded to,
Okay,
but-
we can move on. My next question has to do with the sewer. Okay, so we had a sewer increase this year. And I know that last year, a resolution or ordinance was passed where $12, there would be a $12 increase last year and a $12 increase this year. Fine, no problem, we covered that. And in that ordinance, it said that if the Somerset Raritan Valley Sewer Authority, I'm trying to get that SRVSA correct, added additional costs, that those would be passed along to the residents. So I went and looked at their budget, and they budgeted a 10.3% increase for residential use. If I look at my sewer bill, which was $484 last year, and I look at last year's budgeted sewer budget, 50% of it was approximately the part of the SRVSA, which would be $242, which if I take 10%, that's $24. But yet I'm being charged $34 more for the SRVSA. Now, mind you, I see in tonight, there's a resolution calling for additional spending, and that sort of tries to cover it. And I've been in touch with the council and asked for some information, and I was told that I would be provided with expense and flows have been charted by the Pappas staff, and he plans to give you a copy when he sees you at the next council meeting. I went up to Mr. Pappas this evening before the meeting, and I asked him for those, and he said he did not have those. Now, this correspondence I received from a council member over the weekend. I related over the weekend that I expected to have those before this meeting, and I had hoped to have them on Monday. I am very disappointed that on Thursday evening, I cannot have a hard copy of that information in front of me.
That's my fault. I had told Mr. Pappas to be working on a budget instead, so he'll get to it as soon as we finish the budget.
You know what? Sewer bills were able to be sent out to every resident of this township, okay? In time for us to all have to pay those sewer bills by March 1, and if we don't pay them by March 10, to pay a penalty. So those numbers should be readily available and should be easily made available to any resident. That's my...
Mrs. Franco, in my letter to you, I attempted to expand on the issues that our sewer system, and I believe you said it didn't answer your question.
No, I understand that the sewer system is much more than just that.
Let me finish, please. As a utility, the sewer is a utility component within the township. We are obligated to maintain the financial stability of that by our source of income is the residents who use the system.
In which case, you should have passed another ordinance to increase our rates, not tried to slide it in somehow. And that was not done. And that's my point. Okay? That is my point at this point.
Okay.
Okay? If there were additional costs that needed to be funded for capital or for, drainage from, waste from water off the streets or whatever to maintain the system, that should have been passed as an ordinance and should not have been tried to be slid through with some flyer in our sewer bill. That's my issue. And I appreciate your response to me. It was long, it was in-depth, and I did totally understand it. I understood it even before you sent it to me. Next on, Mr. Pappas, you spoke about an area in need of redevelopment on 22. I would like to know which area in need of redevelopment on 22 will be coming up, because there's two areas.
1200 Route 22 East.
So that's the one that,
Near Adamsville Road.
right. That's the one that wanted the warehouses that's in litigation with us. Okay, so nothing's happening with the previously known as Ethicon property that we expect.
1200 Route 22 is what I reported on.
Okay, but you did not say that in your report. And then my last two things is there any update on Camp Cromwell and when it might be made available to the public?
No,
And when might the public see a master plan?
I don't know yet.
And I'm sorry, but, you know, the public has been asking for a master plan. You've done surveys, you've done town meetings, you've done things where we've all come and filled out Post-it notes and hung them all over the place.
What's your next question, Miss?
No, but let me just say this. That's unacceptable, that you don't have an answer as to when we can expect a master plan. Thank you.
Well, Kathy got one of my questions answered, so that's out of the way. I did want to acknowledge...
Name and address.
Oh, Jennifer Lochran, Bridgewater. I wrote it down. Thank you. Sorry. I did want to acknowledge Officer Alot and Martinsville Fire, Greenall, and Findern. I saw some of the videos and pictures, and I also wanted to comment on what the mayor had said about the Citizens Police Academy. You know, we did a drill where they gave us these really official looking weapons to go clear a room and try to maintain the space. And I almost shot our chief of police. But
He's laughing about it back there.
well, it's true. And my partner tried to kick down a door. It was, even though it was done in a setting, we really planned it out. My partner and I took this very seriously. We had a strategy. We had no idea what we're doing. But even at the end of it, our hearts were like coming out of our chest, like up into our throat. So just that experience alone and identifying with, you know, what it takes to approach a situation like that and try to pretend to be a police officer in front of police officers, I can't imagine the bravery that it takes to walk into that kind of danger and save somebody's life. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and our first responders. I also had a question. It was about, sorry, I tore my paper apart. It was about a resolution of the Township of Bridgewater, Somerset County, New Jersey, to become an official Revolution New Jersey community. And we're approaching the 250th anniversary. How does that help us? What is that? What does it do for the township? If you have
That'll be next on the agenda.
Yeah,
We're going to have a presentation.
Yeah,
on
that is
Oh,
part.
there's a
That's
whole
part of.
presentation?
Yes.
All right. Well,
That's part of that. It's to help us to participate and make us eligible for grant funding and.
Tonight it is, or is it like at another date? Okay.
Thank-
Well, I just wanted to support Jean and her comments, not related to the, things I don't want to talk about, but more related to like parks and space and preserving our local history, because we do have quite a bit of it that goes beyond just where Washington has slept, and even beyond being the first place that a flag was flown. The strategic battleground that we actually were, that we aren't giving credit for, should get some recognition. So I like seeing that move forward. So I hope you guys have a good night. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address the council? If not, we'll resurrect.
I'll try again. Seeing no one.
Okay. Second to the
Motion to-
motion to close public?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are now closed to the public. Okay, next we have item 9, which is presentations of America 250. And who is going to lead that one?
Sure. I'm going to give a brief introduction, and we have a short video to play, and then I want to recognize some of the folks that are here. But we mentioned it, we touched on it before, that this is next year will be the 250th anniversary of the founding of our country, and there's a lot of different events being planned throughout the country and throughout the state and municipalities like ours, and we have a whole host of ideas and some really enthusiastic groups that have been talking about history long before everyone started to jump on and say it's 250th anniversary year. So I think that the best thing for me to do is to play the video, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it. So, hello, Bridgewater. I'm Mayor Matthew Mensch, and I'm excited to share something truly special with you. As we approach America's 250th birthday in 2026, Bridgewater Township will embark on a unique year-long journey of commemoration, one that will leave a lasting mark on our community for generations to come. We're calling it Legacy 2126. Legacy 2126 is more than just a celebration. It's a way for us to honor our past, celebrate our present, and speak to our future. It looks like this. This year, on July 4th, we're going to embark on this journey together. We're going to invite a large number of groups, organizations, and institutions in Bridgewater Township to make contributions to a 100-year time capsule. These groups will include cultural, service, historical, religious, and educational organizations critical to our identity as a community. We will also have multiple avenues for individual Bridgewater residents to participate and contribute as well. For the following year, we will tour Bridgewater together, and each organization will have a chance to tell us what they're contributing, why it's important to them, and what it means to our common Bridgewater heritage. Then, on July 4th, 2026, we will seal this time capsule in a public ceremony at the Municipal Building, where it will stay sealed for a century until our great-grandchildren reopen it on July 4th, 2126. Bridgewater has always played a role in America's story, dating back to the Middlebrook encampment during the Revolutionary War. Now we continue this legacy by ensuring that future generations will understand who we were and what mattered to us in 2026. We want every corner of Bridgewater to be represented in this endeavor, making sure that the people of 2126 get a true picture of our town today. Between now and this July 4th, you'll be hearing a lot more about how you can be a part of Legacy 2126. Every resident will have an opportunity to contribute, and we'll be working hard to make sure this truly reflects the heart of Bridgewater. This is about coming together as a community, uniting to preserve our story for future generations. If you have questions and want to get involved, reach out to the Office of Constituent Relations. Bridgewater, let's leave a legacy together.
I think I should clap.
I want to, you may have seen in the video some of the people that we have in the audience today. So the Historical Alliance that Jane Gandalf had spoken about earlier, they comprise some of these organizations that have been doing work preserving our history and promoting our local culture for some of them from decades or centuries. If you're the Middlebrook encampment, the Washington encampment organization. So what we had wanted to do was to work with them, with a lot of things, not just the time capsule, but to try to bring us together to promote other events. We'll have parts of our newsletter to talk about some of the different historical events that are occurring that the organizations themselves are running. Some are events that we will create ourselves, but this will be the culmination, and it will be an opportunity. Families can contribute items, organizations will contribute. We'll have a lot more information on it as we move forward. But when we were talking, actually, I crashed the Historical Alliance meeting a few weeks ago, and we have, well, you see it on your screens now. We have the Bridgewater Celebrates America 250 logo, variant logo from the one that the council approved that we'll be using throughout the year on anything that comes up. And one of the things that struck me was we talk a lot about the Revolutionary War history, but that's not all that celebrating the 250th anniversary is about. That's a large part of it, and the role that Bridgewater played, the critical role that we played in Revolution. But it's also celebrating all our story as a township, not just in 1776 or 1789 or that time period, but everything that's occurred from then until now, and being able to promote all of that. And I use as examples, my kids are still in the elementary school period, but people here might know. But the example I used was, who is Crim? Do we know who Crim was? I'm sure some people in the room do. I bet a lot of maybe the Crim students might. Where does that history come from? Hamilton School. I thought it was named after Alexander Hamilton. Nope. Hamilton family that lived on the corner, and they were farmers. At least that's what I'm told. So there's a lot of stories, not just from the 1700s, but you have people today in recent history that have done incredible things. You have Eric Murdoch and professional NBA basketball players, and the story of Hobbstown, and you have the story of some of religious organizations and what they've done in Bridgewater. So there's a lot that we get to talk about, not just it starts with the Revolutionary time period, but it goes all the way forward. And I think the cool thing about this is that we get to create our own history by sharing our stories, I'm assuming none of us will be here in 2126, but unless medicine really improves very quickly. But to think about being able to speak to the future, and what would we want to say to somebody who's opening up this video in 100 years, or letters that we write in 100 years, and what would I want them to know about my family or the township now, or my story, my family's story in Bridgewater. So it's a very powerful and unique opportunity, and we're really excited about it. So I wanted to I'll bring up just very briefly and just make sure they introduce themselves and their organizations that they represent, the members of the Historical Alliance that are here. And I know one of the members had to leave. I know she has family commitments, but if you could come up and just give your name and just what organization you're here from, and if you want to say a word or two, and we'll take a picture and we'll get on to the business of the town. Come up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're now moving to item.
Hold on. Take names and pictures.
This is the actual. Okay.
Yeah.
You already know, I'm Jane Gandolf, and the Alliance brought together Friends of Bridgewater History, the Somerset County Historical Society, the Washington Campground Association, the Middlebrook Symposium Group, and the Heritage Trail Organization. So Heritage Trail is housed at the Van Horn House, which is where we met for the first meeting. And Somerset County Historical Society is housed at the Van Beckton House, both in Van Dorn. Beautiful old homes. If you ever have a chance, go look at them. Friends of Bridgewater History doesn't currently have a home. They meet at the Martinsville Community Center, because I happen to represent that as well. Washington Campground has been around forever. I have personal family history. My uncle used to read the Declaration every year for about 10 years. So we're very happy to bring the groups together and work together to get information out about the history. Looking forward to working with the Parks and Recreation as well. Thanks.
I'm Kevin Storms. I'm representing the Washington Campground Association. I've been a member there, a trustee for several years. And as the mayor had mentioned, it's been formed since 1894 is when it actually first became an association, so it goes back a long time. Very cherished grounds there. We do the reading of the Declaration of Independence, like Jane mentioned, and we're going to be presenting some ideas of what we're going to do for 2026. And then obviously for 2027, when we have the 250th of actual Middlebrook. So I'm looking forward to working with this alliance, and it's a great thing that we're doing here, because Bridgewater, as the mayor mentioned, has a tremendous amount of history here, going all the way up through. And I'll quickly mention a guy named Frederick Pope, who was, you're talking about attorney, he was the co-counsel for Bruno Hauptmann, the Charles Lindbergh. He's a Bridgewater guy. So there's a lot that goes on, not just revolutionary, but all throughout history here. So thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bob Barth, and I represent the Middlebrook Symposium, which is coming up the 15th of March, this week and a half away. We've decided to celebrate the Middlebrook encampment over 4 symposiums. This is the 3rd, And what I'm going to do is ask you, how many people have heard of the Morristown encampment? A couple. How many have heard of Valley Forge? How many have heard of Middlebrook? A few. Well, come to the symposium and we'll learn more about it. But the point is that we all know about Valley Forge, we all know about Morristown, but one of the most important encampments was right here in Bridgewater at the Middlebrook encampment. We had one in 1777. We had one in 78, 79. George Washington, you may know, lived at the Walls House for that period of time, about 6 months. We had a number of the generals, you probably know their names, that were here in the area. This particular symposium is about the Forage Wars. After the 10 crucial days, after Washington attacked the Hessians at Trenton, won at Princeton, and went up to Morristown for the winter, they came down here. And at that period of time, both the British and the Americans had to forage for their food, for their hay, for their horses, for all those things they needed. And they were fighting each other for those 6 or 7 months to get there first and to fight off the opponent, the British, et cetera. So I encourage you to come to, unfortunately, we're sold out for this symposium, but you can watch it live on the internet. And the next one, of course, we're promoting for March of next year, March 21st. I happen to be a member of all these organizations. My wife and I, Linda, are involved in history. We have been for a long time. And we put together, through the Heritage Trail Association, which you may have heard of, that has the Van Horn House. They run the 5 Generals Tour every February. They just had one a couple of weeks ago. And we got so involved with the history of the area, and we wanted to start learning about it. We said, well, let's join everything and keep learning. And I encourage you all to do that too. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, we can.
You want us out front there?
For those of you that have not had a picture here yet before, my only words
Do whatever
of advice,
Suzanne says.
just do whatever Suzanne tells you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may comment just very briefly, as a resident of this town, as opposed to your lawyer, the author, Rick Atkinson, who wrote a Pulitzer Prize-winning trilogy on the World War II, trilogy on Revolutionary War. The first volume is out. Bridgewater is mentioned heavily in that volume. And the second volume is coming out in April, and much of the events that were detailed in the book will be covered in that volume. So, history dorks like you and I, Mayor,
I'd pick that up.
in this trilogy. It's interesting to see our town mentioned so many times in a book that is out there in the world.
Very cool.
Okay. Thank you, folks. Moving to 10A, public hearing and final action ordinance. An ordinance authorizing the sale of property known as Lot 15 in Block 477 on the Bridgewater Township tax map and located at 901 Route 202-206 to Nouvelle Main Street Urban Renewal LLC of 610 Anderson Avenue, Cliffside Park, New Jersey, 07010. They are the buyer, for a nominal consideration of $100 pursuant to NJSA 40A:12-21L to construct affordable housing. If the developer is unable to meet construction costs through other sources, the township may contribute up to $150,000 from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. May I have a motion, please, on 10A?
Motion to open public hearing.
And may I have a second, please?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of opening to the public, please.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we are open to the public. If anyone wishes to discuss this issue, please come forward.
Hello again. I just have one quick question.
You have to give your name again.
Oh, Kathy Franco, Martinsville, New Jersey. Does anybody know how much money is in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund in Bridgewater at this time? And can you tell us how much that is? And how would a member of the public get that information quickly without having to go through an Oprah? Like, who do we call?
I'll get it to you from Mr. Pandos tomorrow.
Okay. Only because, I wonder how much this $150,000 potential outlay is as a percentage, considering we have over 400 units that we're going to have to meet under the new quota. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Anyone else wishing to address the council? If not, could I see a motion?
Seeing no one, I move to close public hearing and move for final action.
Okay,
Second that?
okay. Roll call, please.
Councilman Kirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Cordilla?
Yes.
Councilman Pedroso?
Yes.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Nogales?
Yes. Under item 11, introduction of new ordinances, we have none. Resolutions 12A, a resolution providing emergency temporary appropriations for the current fund, $7,637,072.98, which brings the 2025 year-to-date temporary apportionments to $30,848,074.96.
Want to do A, B, and C on consent?
Sorry?
Want to do A, B, and C on consent?
No, because I'd rather do them separately.
Okay.
I've got a lot to say about this. Motion on A.
I'll make that motion.
We have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion now on that issue?
I have perhaps a question for Mr. Pappas. During the reorg meeting, we passed a temporary appropriations resolution. Do you recall what that number was?
26.25%.
Well, what was the actual number, dollar number?
I don't know offhand.
And this number here today is 30.8 million. That's year to date from January to March, or is that for the two
No,
quarters?
that would likely carry us through June.
So, okay. I looked at the 2024 budget, and our total general appropriations were 50.5 million. So I didn't understand the math. How do we get to 61.7 million if I take 30.8 times 2? How do we get to that number?
Sorry, repeat that question?
I looked at, in the 2024 budget, our total appropriations were 50.5 million. But this number today, if I take the 30.8 million and I multiply it times 2, presuming for a full year, I get to 61.7 million. Which is 22% over 50.5 million. So how do we get that number to 30.8 million?
Well, you're suggesting that the 2025 budget would be $60 million, and that's not that's an incorrect assumption.
Right, but the appropriation amount.
We don't know what the 2025 budget will be.
Right.
I think what Councilman Cruz is asking is that when you look at the title of the resolution, it says we're providing a temporary appropriations in the amount of $7.6 million, bringing the total amount to $30.8 million. And in the text of the resolution, it says that would be 60.5% of the 2024 budget, And I think he's asking if the math adds up correctly.
No, I think what I'm hearing is, he thinks that because we're spending 30 million over 6 months, that
be
we're going to
60.
spend 30 over the other half. As we've discussed already tonight, there are certain bills that are paid over the first 6 months that are a one-time payment for the year. It's not suggesting that we anticipate matching dollar for dollar. It's not half the budget, it's a budget based upon when bills come in. Correct?
But I still don't see how. So 26, I'm trying to understand the math, right? So if our appropriations last year was 50.5 million, how is this number calculated? I'm not really following it.
We've discussed this every year, that expenditures are not linear month to month. Some are front-loaded toward the beginning of the year.
No, that's not my question. My question is, how does this number satisfy the 26.25%?
The 26.25% is the amount, the maximum amount that a governing body can approve for the initial temporary budget. That the reorganization, there's a temporary budget approved, and there is a statutory limitation on what percentage that can be for that first temporary budget.
Okay, so that 26.25% applies only for the initial temporary budget?
Correct.
So then subsequent appropriations can be higher than 26 point?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I see.
Yes, sir.
Okay, because, all right, because
In
it
12A, in
reference,
the body of the document, it details the individual accounts.
I understand, but our second whereas says a temporary budget in the amount of 26.25% of the total appropriations in the 2024 budget. It's a little, so that's where, okay. I thought that would apply for all appropriations. All right. Well, okay. I think, well, consistent to my prior years, I'm going to vote no because I don't have a budget, and I'm not comfortable approving an appropriation amount that, if I extrapolate to a full year, would exceed $60 million.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, Mr. President, I want to just read for the sake of anyone in the public or watching. The third whereas clause states, whereas if additional funds are not budgeted, the public welfare will be adversely affected. What that means is we'll not be able to pay our bills. We will not be able to clear snow. We will not be able to pay employees. And certainly that it would be a highly unacceptable condition. That's the reason why we have temporary budgets. That's the reason why I will support this resolution.
There are no other comments. Roll call, please, on 12A.
Councilman Kirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Cordilla?
Yes.
Councilman Pedrosa?
No.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Nogales?
Yes. All right, moving to 12B. A resolution providing for an emergency temporary appropriations in current fund, $4,054,976.50 for fiscal year 2025. Local employer billing for the Public Employees Retirement System, PERS, and the Police and Firemen's Retirement System, PFRS, which brings the 2025 year-to-date temporary apportionments to $22,900,712.48. May I have a motion, please, on B?
I'll make a motion to approve 12B.
And a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion now on this item?
Just want to state that without a budget, I won't be able to support the resolution.
Duly noted. A roll call, please.
Well, I'd like to comment that our public employees deserve to have their pensions appropriately funded, and that's why I'm going to vote yes.
I don't know what appropriately funded means without a budget.
Based upon what they earn is determinant to what the pension payment is.
I don't have a budget.
Okay. Roll call.
Councilman Kirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Cordilla?
Yes.
Councilman Pedrosa?
No.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Nogales?
Yes. 12C, a resolution providing emergency temporary appropriations for sewer fund, $2,015,578.26, which brings the 2025 year-to-date temporary apportionment to $5,496,771.72. Motion, please, on C.
I'll make the motion to approve 12C.
Second, please.
I'll second it.
Any discussion on 12C?
I think we need a sewer system that operates for people to be able to dispose of waste, so
It's very important people be able to flush their toilets. Could we have a roll call, please?
sorry.
There was
Wait,
another
wait.
comment.
One second. I just want to know for the record that without a budget, I will not be voting in favor of this resolution.
And Mr. President, I just want to point out that we owe $1.405 million to the Somerset Raritan Sewerage Authority, $310,000 to PERS, and $300,000 in salaries and wages, and our failure to approve these would be dereliction of our duty to provide a working sewer system.
Agreed.
Roll call.
Councilman Kirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Cordilla?
Yes.
Councilman Pedroso?
No.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Nogales?
Yes. D is a resolution of the Township of Bridgewater, Somerset County, New Jersey, to become an official Revolution New Jersey community. You've already heard the words before. May I have a motion on D, please?
I'll make that motion.
And a second?
I'll second.
If there is no additional discussion, roll call, please, on D.
Councilman Kirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Cordilla?
Yes.
Councilman Pedroso?
Yes.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Nogales?
Yes. E is a resolution for the Township of Bridgewater endorsing the efforts of Novell and Advancing Opportunities Incorporated to secure an application with Somerset County Home Investment Partnerships for Bridgewater Supportive Housing Project to construct an affordable housing project on Block 477, Lot 15, also known as 901 Route 202-206. May I have a motion on this one, please?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Second. Okay, for public insight, this is the documentation to support Novell, who would be building the home. And as was mentioned in the ordinance, they will need funds, and this is our opportunity to provide support. We're not providing any money, we're simply saying it's okay to do that. If there are no questions, roll call, please, on E.
This is the home that pertains to the ordinance 10A, correct?
Yes, 10A.
Okay.
They're seeking, we're just supporting their applications.
That's all we're doing. We're
Supporting their application, seeking funds through other avenues.
Right.
They have a deadline of March 20th, so they need us to approve this tonight. Otherwise, they're ineligible for those funds, and the deal would not go through.
Roll call.
Councilman Kirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Cordilla?
Yes.
Councilman Pedroso?
Yes.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Nogales?
Yes. F is authorizing dispersal of $6,000 from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund for additional renovations and repairs for one completed property at Block 520, Lot 14, also known as 509, Mercer Street, through the Bridgewater Housing Rehabilitation Program. Could I have a motion for F, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Any comments from the administration on this one? This is part of our normal process of supporting. Did you have a comment, sir?
Yes, I do.
Please.
Okay. More just, I guess when people do work on their homes like this, we go out to bid, we have certain thresholds and stuff. Are they able to use anybody? Are these vendors pre-qualified? How does that work?
The administrative agent, Rahabco, is the one that manages this program for us. They actually have an inspector that comes in and assesses the property, and they go through the bidding process. They have vendors that they pre-qualify, and they are the ones that supervise the actual work.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Do you need a motion? I'll move it. Or did we already? I'm sorry.
We did.
We did? Okay.
Councilman Kirsch? Councilman Kirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Cordilla?
Yes.
Councilman Pedroso?
Yes.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Nogales?
Yes. Moving to G, notification of applications for the 2025 Somerset County Community Development Block Grant by the following 501c3 nonprofit organizations with intended projects within Bridgewater. CASA Shore, CASA, by the way, is court-appointed special advocate. Home Sharing Incorporated, the Shimon and Sarah Birnbaum Jewish Community Center, Visions and Pathworks, and Youth Consultation Services. May I have a motion on G, please?
I'll make that motion.
And a second?
Second.
I'll say. Okay.
A brief commentary on that.
Yes.
This is particularly for Mr. Corsini. This is awareness only, so I don't believe it would cause me to recuse, but I am a member of the Board of Trustees of Home Sharing. I mean, I can if that would be, if that could be better. You know, this is an awareness
It's a
resolution.
personal thing. If you feel you're conflicted, then you should recuse.
Well, since there's no money changing hands, I don't feel I'm conflicted, but I do want
you
it
should
known.
vote.
I do want it known to the public.
The financial interest.
Right.
There is no financial interest.
The indicia of a conflict of interest in New Jersey. So if you don't feel you have one, and I know you don't, you may vote.
Thank you.
Motion on G, please.
We already did that.
Does anybody know what
Okay, roll call.
does anybody know what the intended projects are?
Sorry?
Does anybody know what the intended projects are?
I do not. I know that part of the, one of the requirements of being eligible to apply for a community development block grant is the municipality where the nonprofit is headquartered has to adopt a resolution acknowledging their existence here, and then that's one of their qualifications that the county requires. So I don't know specifically what projects, but the Bridgewater does not have any direct involvement in approving or reviewing the grant. That's all through the county CDBG program.
Although we do sit on the community development, I think Alan.
Yeah, that's right. We do have representatives.
So it's
Isn't
a
it-
melding process. Groups come before the board and they state their projects, and then the few funds that are available are parceled out.
I mean, shouldn't we know what the intended projects are and what we are indirectly supporting?
Well, when the projects are developed, they are presented through the Community Development Block Grant, and that's the organ that gets it. We don't know at this point, because quite honestly, unless they're accepted into the program, they probably wouldn't even bother, trying to develop a program.
Municipalities have representation. Councilman Cardilla is one of our representatives that sits on this countywide committee, and that group hears and makes decisions on which organizations are funded or what projects are funded.
I mean, keep in mind, I mean, these are great organizations, right? I mean, that I see listed here, these 5 groups are great groups, but we're being asked to indirectly support projects that we don't know what they are and what the underlying.
No,
We're asked to support anything. It's just we're acknowledging notification that they intend to apply.
And that they are in Bridgewater Town.
It's a notification of applications. We're not approving or acknowledging.
And we're not spending any money. So,
It's
okay.
an annual thing.
If there are no other questions, do we get?
You know, I just don't have, I'll just abstain. I don't have enough information to pass judgment on it.
Okay. A roll call, please.
Councilman Kirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Cordilla?
Yes.
Councilman Pedrosa?
Abstain.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Nogales?
Yes. H is authorizing qualified vendors for various open-ended professional engineering, planning, surveying, and consulting services for the Township of Bridgewater for 2025. Motion, please, on H.
So moved.
Second.
I'll second it.
A discussion. Mr. Papp, is there anything you'd like to offer in terms of insight?
No, I think Mayor covered it.
Okay. If there are no questions, roll.
Just to comment, it's a pretty comprehensive list.
Very, lots of people on it.
The one thing, if I could just say, the one thing that we did this year is change the resolution. Each of these entities, when they submitted for specific expertise.
Yep.
And so the resolution notes that versus just having the entire list grouped together. It's really more
Yeah, great
accurate.
segmentation in terms of, you know, if you know what you need, you know who to go to. Okay. Roll call.
Councilman Kirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Cordilla?
Yes.
Councilman Pedrosa?
Yes.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Nogales?
Yes. I, authorizing an additional $101,000 to RJM Landscape and Design LLC of 821 Parsonage Hill Drive, Branchburg, New Jersey, 08876 for snow removal services in the amount not to exceed $251,000 for the 2024-2025 winter season to be funded from the snow removal account. A motion, please, on I.
Make that motion.
Okay, and a second, please.
Council President, I'll second it, but I also would like to note to the public that the documentation we have in front of us is an accounting of the hours that have been spent with this vendor for snow removal services. So we're not just voting on approving additional funding. There is a document with the hours and the logic for those numbers.
I just also will add to that, there was a question before on the number of hours and stuff, and it varies by storm. And when you look at this for what has been experienced this year, it is anywhere from 85 and a half hours on the low end to, I guess it was back on New Year's Day, it was almost 400 hours. It varies by the storm, and it's not just a random number.
And Mr. President, the other commentary here is that this is a portion of our comprehensive snow removal plan. Some is removed by our municipal employees using our equipment. Some is done through this flexible arrangement with a contractor. I know there was shock and awe at the idea that we'd spend 1,000 hours on snow removal. If you think about the dozens of trucks and the hundreds of miles of roads that we have, it really isn't surprising at all.
Okay. Roll call on aye, please.
Councilman Kirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Cordilla?
Yes.
Councilman Pedrosa?
Yes.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Nogales?
Yes. J, authorizing release of the safety and stabilization bond in the amount of $5,000, acceptance of the site improvements, and acceptance of the maintenance guarantee in the amount of $24,630 for PSE&G, Block 552, Lot 3, at 961 Route 22. Motion, please, on J.
So,
Make that motion.
second.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilman Kirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Cordilla?
Yes.
Councilman Pedrosa?
Yes.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Nogales?
Yes. K, authorizing change order number 1, final change order decreasing the contract price from $786,243.20 to $682,759.94, a decrease of 13.16%, or $103,483.26, authorizing acceptance of the project release of the performance bond, acceptance of the maintenance bond, and final payment to Top Line Construction Corporation, 22 Fifth Street, Somerville, New Jersey, 08876, for the 2024-2 roadway improvement project, which includes the base bid for the entire lengths of Andover Avenue, Berwick Drive, Morris Street, off North Avenue, and Roanoke Road, and alternate bid for Erin Court, Ethel Court, and Moorhead Court, funded through the 2024 Capital Road Fund. May I have a motion, please?
We win some, we lose some. We won on this one, I'll move it.
All right, second, please.
I'll second.
If there are no additional comments, roll call on K, please.
Councilman Kirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Cordilla?
Yes.
Councilman Pedrosa?
Yes.
Councilman Ring?
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, yes.
Okay. President Nogales?
Yes.
Mr. Pappas was asking me
L,
if I was going to move
authorizing
this one.
change order number 1, final change order increasing the contract price from $768,347.16 to $921,786.40, an increase of 19.97%, or $153,439.24, authorizing acceptance of the project release of the performance bond, acceptance of the maintenance bond, and final payment to Top Line Construction Corporation, 22 Fifth Street, Somerville, New Jersey, 08876, for the Branch Road and Edgewood Drive roadway improvement project, which includes the entire lengths of Branch Road and Edgewood Drive, funded through the 2023 Capital Road Fund. Could I have a motion, please, on this one?
I'll make that motion.
You can't have it both ways.
Well, I'll cover it. I need a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, we got a second and a first and a second. Okay, now, I rode the engineering department pretty tough on this one, and there's a whereas, because there were two big pieces that led to this overrun. One was 500 feet of 12-inch reinforced pipe, and the other was topsoil. And part of the issue was, and here's the whereas that was added. Whereas the cost of increase is attributed to as-built, and of course for the public, that means after the job is done, you go back and you say what exactly happened. The as-built project quantities and other unforeseen work performed during the construction phase of the project, including but not limited to stormwater drainage, significant additional stormwater drainage, and other improvements not identified during the detailed design phase, was installed after deemed essential through on-site field observations. During construction, multiple residences raised concerns regarding pre-existing issues, and it was necessary to proceed with the additional work to address these concerns, particularly those that resulted in safety improvements. This was an area where it did not have curb, it had ditches, and pipes under the individuals' driveways were badly eroded. Mr. Pappas,
Yes, Mr. Burr prepared this, and I can pass this around, you can see it, or I can make copies. What he did is he detailed in every instance where there was additional piping or curbing or a drainage inlet installed, so it can give you a sense of the breadth of the additions that attribute.
when you have a 19% increase, you get my attention. And this is one where, after a lot of discussion, especially appreciating some of the issues, drainage issues, which would have been which would have come up as a problem after the road was done. So I think we did what needed to be done. Any other items, questions on this? Could I have a roll call, please, on L?
Run.
Councilman Kush?
Yes.
Councilman Cordilla?
Yes.
Councilman Pedroso?
Yes.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Nogales?
Yes. Moving to M, waiver of fire permit fee in the amount of $300 for St. Bernard of Clairvaux Parish in connection with hosting homeless families at their locations, 500 Route 22, Bridgewater, New Jersey, 08807, on the following dates: January 19th through January 26th, April 6th through April 13th, May 25th through June 1st, September 21st through September 28th, and October 26th through November 1st. Could I have a motion, please, on this one?
I'll be more than happy to move this. I think it's wonderful that they're able to provide temporary housing to homeless. It is capped at, the fire official has capped it at no more than 14 people per occasion.
Could I have a second, please? I'll second it. Okay. If there are no other items, roll call, please.
Councilman Kush?
Yes.
Councilman Cordilla?
Yes.
Councilman Pedroso?
Yes.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Nogales?
Yes. We've now reached the point in the agenda for item 13, which is a closed session for contract negotiations for sewer utility, the Gilbride Pump Station, and litigation involving Somerset Corporate Center and affordable housing. I will read the pronouncement after I put my glasses on. Be it resolved by the Bridgewater Town Council that this body will now hold a closed session meeting hereby convened to discuss matters related to contract negotiations concerning the sewer utility, Gilbride Pump Station, as well as ongoing litigation involving the Somerset Corporate Center and affordable housing. When and if the matters discussed become public record, they will be made known to the public at that time. The public is excluded from said meeting, and further notice thereof is dispensed with all in accordance with Section 8 and 4A of the Open Public Meetings Act. I anticipate no additional action after the closed session, so we will simply adjourn. Could I have a motion? Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we are. Okay, as soon as we get the door open, we'll need to get back online, Suzanne. You're back online already. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we have completed our closed session. We are back online now as promised. There is no additional business. We're going to move to adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
All right. All those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you for an exciting evening. Welcome back.
Thank you.